Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities. We'll take a look through what we normally do, the DXY, 10-30-year yields, precious metals, and then through the commodities that I follow. If you guys need any help with any sort of commodity related investment type stuff, and I can't do personalized financial advice or anything like that, but if you do need help and you have questions, finding-value.com, you can see what I'm doing, how I'm positioning for it. That's the Platinum membership. We also have a Platinum question and answer session at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, Sunday. So let's dive right in to what's going on here. We've got the DXY, the relative strength indicator of the dollar is what I call it. Now, when I look at this, I know it was down a lot today. It was down 0.9%. I'm not convinced that this thing's going lower. I think this is going to still go higher here. Why is that? Because although we sold off to the downside here, we put a nice little fat candlestick. It's like they use this number to get people to buy so they can offload or do something. Something on the lines of that. And I'm just saying that in general. But, you know, I see this big move lower here with a lot of selling pressure, big down days. The down days through here, a little bit smaller. And this kind of, to me, almost signifies an end of trend type movement. And obviously, I don't know that with 100% certainty, but it sure looks like to me like we want to go up, like we need a bounce higher. We've got the falling wedge here too in the blue, which usually indicates a potential move on up. But we did put this wick on the bottom. And that's really what's telling me like, hey, there's some people buying this up off the bottom here. And usually you see these kind of hammer patterns at the end of a trend. And I'm not saying that we're necessarily going to go higher, but it sure looks like it to me. That's my take on that. The 10-year yield also looks like it didn't want to go lower. So we were moving up. We broke out of this pattern to the upside. Today, we had some selling pressure. It was down 3.1%. But, I'm going to say but, you've got a big fat wick at the bottom. So it's almost like it was a retest move where we came back down and the buying pressure came and brought it back up. I think this could still go higher for the 10-year yield in the very short term. And obviously, yields lower means bonds higher, but to me, this looks like bond prices may go lower because it gapped up and it sold off throughout the day, giving us downward momentum. So I'm not in the camp that this looks bullish for bonds. It looks like we want to go lower. How much lower? That's the real question. I don't know the exact amount lower, but to me, it looks like it wants to go lower. The 30-year yield down 1.4%. And let's see if we can get the 30-year. There we go. This, to me, still looks like it wants to go on up. This is, I mean, the downward candlestick today, when we went down, it got bought up throughout the day. So although, you know, we sold off on yields, the momentum's heading back up for yields to go higher and bond prices to go lower. Now, the TYX to TNX, the relationship of the 30-year yield and the 10-year yield, launched higher today. And that is bullish for precious metals. When this goes up, it's bullish for precious metals. So very bullish down here. We went up here. We pulled on back, and it wasn't as bullish for the metals. But today, it's a massive move, which means that the 30-year yield in relationship to the 10-year yield, the curve is uninverting. It's normalizing. And when that normalizes, when the 10-year yield goes down faster than the 30-year yield, that's when this ratio goes up. Think of this as the curve inverting as it goes down, uninverting as it goes up. And when it uninverts, that's usually when precious metals do very well. The CRB index heading higher. Again, this is heavily weighted in crude. I would put a trend line on this guy here and say, hey, look, if we break this, we're looking pretty good. And especially if we break I would say this level here, then we're looking really, really good. And that's at 286. We've got work ahead of us in order to do that. We've broken out of the falling wedge to the upside, retest, and now we're moving higher. The CRB index to the S&P 500, favorable for commodities during this day today. Up 0.5. This still, to me, looks like we want to move higher with commodities outperforming stocks. That is what it looks like to me. We've got a bullish, almost a bullish engulfing and a bullish piercing today in the ratio. We've a falling wedge that we've broken to the upside. I think we're going to move to the upside where we could see commodity outperformance of the S&P 500. Gold moving very much higher, but we're putting these little wicks at the top. I don't like seeing that. I like seeing big, strong finishing days that we finish more towards the closing point being the high. But nonetheless, it's still a very strong day. It's looking good. I will say that this does kind of look like we've got some sort of increasing rising wedge that could break to the downside eventually. And what I think this is scribing out is a inverted shoulder, head, shoulder. And I think eventually that will play out potentially. Silver also getting some selling pressure towards the top here. Like it wants to pull back. Even though we had really good market conditions, we may want to pull back here. And you can tell this by this large selling pressure day here and then the small up movements where you just don't have the juice left. So I'm actually expecting maybe a pullback in gold and silver at some point here in the near future. And maybe we get some better buying opportunities. This is only in the near future. Big long-term, big picture view, gold, silver, and all these look really good. Platinum being the all-star performer of the metals today, up 2.8%, $28. And what I see here, you can kind of put in a little pattern there maybe that we're scribing out. We do have a bullish engulfing today. It is still very bullish. We do have a little bit of a candlestick up top. That candlestick is up top because we have a lot of resistance coming through this area. There's your resistance on the tops here. We got to break through that, hold up above it, and then boom. We go to boom, boom town if we can break through the 1050, 1060 and stay above it. I do think it's working its way in a bullish fashion to the upside, so looks very good. XAU to gold ratio, gold and silver miners are outperforming gold itself. That's what we want to see if you're in the gold and silver mining companies. Now, long-term, we need to break this downtrend line. That is the line we want to break for happiness. That's what I call it. We go into the dailies. We are grinding all over the place, but it's on an upward fashion. So slight outperformance of gold and silver. Mining companies, GDX, looking at the gold and silver miners priced in dollars, up 2.9%. I can't say it's a strong candlestick, though. Looks kind of weak, in my opinion. That doesn't exude strength. It exudes neutral to slightly weak because the momentum's coming back down. Doesn't mean we can't still launch. We're right on that resistance line, and that's why we're hitting that selling pressure on that resistance line. SILJ up 2.16%. Again, we've got that red candlestick. Momentum is coming back down. Although we were up, we are still at this resistance area that we have not blown through. Big picture view, though, it still looks good. Crude oil up 2.75%. And kind of diving in there, are we going to roll over where we could potentially kind of move sideways like this? That is what I think may happen. Doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. We need to see continued buying strength to move on higher. We want to see large green candlesticks, big old guys coming on up, showing us that the buying pressure's there. And we do have fundamental backing for that to occur. China reopening, I know that they're flying a heck of a lot more than what they used to be. And the demand in China, I'm sure, will go up substantially over time. Natural gas, a little bit below 7%, so it's up 6.8%. We've got a cold spell coming weather-wise. Looks pretty good, pretty solid move today. We did close above the previous high yesterday. But very volatile. Hold on, because it's going to be a volatile ride in natural gas. But I do like natural gas. It looks good. XOP, yeah, you know me. You know, when I look at this, I don't see strength in this candlestick here. I see weakness, guys. I know it went up. It gapped up, and it has momentum coming back down. I do think that we want to come back down here. And before we head higher. I do think that the momentum of this selling pressure is going to need to get worked off. And then we'll work our way higher. So let's see what happens. Let's see what the buyers give us. Let's see what the candlesticks look like over the next week or two. Because there is some selling pressure momentum-wise in XOP. OIH up 4.19%. That's looking pretty good. Man, this is going to be a battle, I think. We've got good buying pressure back here. We came into some selling pressure these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. We've got buying pressure coming in yesterday and today. We need to see that continue. Now, I own this. I'm not doing anything with my shares. I'm just holding on, and I'm playing the big picture view. When it gets in the short term like this is why I don't trade short term. We're getting a battle between the buyers and the sellers, and they're duking it out, and I can see it in the candlestick patterns. Large down candlesticks, big up candlesticks, they're duking it out. And this very well could rip if it wants to rip. The Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, up 2.5%, looking a lot better than the previous days. We need to continue this buying pressure. We're right at that resistance line where we've traded. We also have a lot of support underneath us. So this is a spot that I think is going to get sticky, where I think we'll sit on top of it before a launch. And it could launch at any time. Uranium down slightly. We tried launching today. We are hitting our head on this lower resistance line. That resistance line, if we were to take a look to see what is creating that, it's this bottom portion, this hit there, the hit here, and now we're at it again. We want to stay above it. It's okay if we do a false breakdown or something, but we need the buying pressure to come back in and show us that they're going to send it to the upside. There's a good chance that the sellers come in here and push this thing lower to the downside for a short period of time. We've got the candlesticks in here where this thing is battling buyers, the big green candlestick army. We've got sellers still through here. There's a lot of big red candlesticks all through here still. They're still there. They're still knocking this thing down 4 or 5% day pluses. Usually I don't see that before I move higher, but again, not every approach is the same, and we'll see where this thing heads over the next week. Again, if it goes down, I'm not going to sell anything. I'm just looking for better buying opportunities. Looking at TAN, up today, doesn't look the strongest of the days, though. But we're right at that resistance line. It's slightly lower. It's a little bloody nose is what I call it. Left side looks like the right side, and I do think we will head higher with TAN. COPX up 1.65%. Let's see what copper ETF has us. We're going to go to the dailies, double bottom, heading on higher. A little bit of, a lot of selling pressure there. We're coming back around. I can't say that this is a bullish candlestick here, even though we were up today. I do think that we could maybe spill a little bit to the downside before heading higher for COPX. I'm looking at the bearish engulfing here. We're not really moving higher. We had every reason to launch today, and it didn't launch, which makes me think that we could head lower in the short term. Lithium, LIT. This is the ETF lithium. Let's take a big picture view of this bad boy. It still looks like to me like we are consolidating a little bit more, and then we'll get to the dead period, and then boom, and we'll probably form some sort of pattern. Watch out if the sellers push us lower. We could have one last little dip down. If we were to dip down, let's do a fib retracement on it. I do think it's possible to get down. We could even get down to $48 a share or back to $58 a share. So 48 and 58 are the two spots that I think we could get to in the short term with a little bit of scary in the mix. REMX, still grinding sideways. I do think there's some more grinding sideways left, but it's not this is not a convincing day for an up day. We're up 1.15. It gapped higher, momentum came down, and it closed right there. So there's momentum to the downside. SPX, same thing. It's trying to break out, but it's getting selling pressure. Is this a top where we head lower, or are we going to power through it and head higher? We're at that decision point right now. We'll have to see what happens. And I'm sure the NASDAQ's at the same thing. It gapped up, but it came back down, and we're right on that support level. Let's find out where we go here. It's important because the overall markets do provide a tailwind to some of our investments. I think uranium is one of those investments that trades more heavily with the overall markets than, say, oil. Oil kind of goes in opposite directions. EEM down 0.8%. Kind of surprised with the dollar down, but maybe it's not believing what the dollar's doing. Well, we have broken out. We're probably going to do a retest somewhere down here, and then we'll head higher. But I do like EEM from a long-term perspective. Looks real good right where it's at in that general vicinity. It could go lower a little bit. We've got that bloody nose on the big candlestick here, but we've broken the downtrend. Everything looks good, and it looks good where we're at in a big long-term, big picture view. XHB up 1.79%, but again, we've got the red momentum down candlestick, even though we were up. So we could head a little bit lower back down, maybe fill this gap or whatever you want to do there. Momentum is lower. Moo's got the same thing. Gapped higher, momentum back down today, and it was an up day at 0.64%. Not a highly convincing bullish day today, in my opinion. Looking at copper, tried running, but we're just hugging on to our support resistance line. That is the line that traded, that popped up here, came up here a couple times. So there is some resistance up there, and we are seeing that resistance play out right now in front of our eyes. Lumber doesn't look too bad. We were down 1.19% today, but still we're in this falling wedge that is scribing out. We might have a little more downside before heading on higher. We've got iron ore still bouncing sideways in this nice little move here. Eventually, I think we'll break our way on up. Aluminum down a little bit, 2.27%. I still think aluminum looks really good for a move higher. You can see the stair-stepping pattern, up, little sell-off, up, little sell-off, up, little sell-off. That's the stair-step I'm used to seeing for a bullish move. Baltic Dry Index slightly lower. We're right at the breakout, trying to break out. It will break out. Looks real good. China reopening. It all makes sense. Let's see if we get the breakout. Newcastle Coal, just small little down days here. That still looks bullish. The sellers aren't whopping it. I would get highly bearish if you start seeing patterns that look like that, or big selling pressure days like this guy, or this guy even. And then you get the small buying pressure days. That looks like a topping pattern where we could head lower, and we'll continue to monitor it. I know in the winter here, that's going to be bullish for coal. We're going to want more and more energy, and it's going to be at higher and higher prices. Ethereum up 3.5%, looking actually quite strong. A little bit at the wick at the top, but this could mean that liquidity is loosening up in the system. This to me looks like a bottom here. The way that looks and the way that we are functioning, it to me looks like we could go higher in Ethereum, and Bitcoin has the same pattern. And it very much looks like liquidity could be coming into the system here. And that's what it's pricing. But that's what I've got for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website, finding-value.com, platinum membership. Use the word discount in the coupon code if you want. And I'll see you Sunday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, question and answer session. Join our community. Everyone's welcome. You can bring any questions you got. It could be anything, and I'll try to answer it to the best of my abilities of what I know. All right, guys, we'll catch you later. This is Finding Value.